All right, we're going to go ahead and continue our media availabilities this morning. We've now been joined by Austin Cindric, driver of the number 2 Ford for Team Penske Racing. We will go ahead and take questions, and we will start with Greg.
Greg Engel, Forbes. We're 3 races away from the end, right? With 33 races, it's been a grind. We haven't been off since Easter. Does that grind really kind of set in at this time of the year? Or are you still so focused on your job on track that it's not a factor at all?
I would say for me, it's habitual at this point. I feel like there's a certain point, like towards the tail end of the summer, that it gets, oh man, this has been, we've been doing this for quite some time. But otherwise, you're maybe asking the wrong person, because I'm about to go spend a month in Australia racing cars. So I'm not sure that it bothers me a whole much. But yeah, you get difficulty with turnaround times in the middle of weeks. Like for me, for example, like I had a ton of different sponsor trips and obligations to do during the week, let alone prepare for the races and then go do the races on the race weekends. So I'd say everybody probably has a stretch that's probably more taxing and challenging. And if you just gave me the race car driver job, it wouldn't be too hard to convince me to just keep going.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Jeff Gluck.
On paper, this seems like a really tricky situation for you this weekend, given your 2 teammates are in, maybe not must wins, but close, and they could really use that win. And you'll probably already, if things work out, all be drafting together late in the race and be up front. How do you manage that from your position?
It's a great question. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's all very situational. But from a team standpoint, obviously, I have to be an asset to those guys throughout the course of the weekend and the next 2 weeks, even this past weekend in Las Vegas. So I've been in that position before, and I understand that. And but I think the interesting thing when you look at the field and the playoff grid, obviously there's 2 cars, from each team, There's 3 teams, and there's 2 cars that are in desperate spots from a point standpoint or below the cut. And on the flip side, there's 2 cars that are able to help each one of those other 2 cars. So there's like a wingman for everybody out there. If you look at it from a mathematics standpoint, like the 48's in the same position as me, the 54. Hamlin is able to do the same thing for his teammates if he chooses to, and you kind of go down the list, and it's pretty even as far as the opportunity to help your company and be able to move forward if the opportunity presents itself. But and this is the type of racetrack that would happen more than anywhere else.
All right, we'll go to Zach Albert next.
Zach Albert, NASCAR.com. The last time you were in this room in the spring, you had a giant horseshoe wreath of flowers around your neck and was inseparable from you. What became of that? Where is it now?
Well, I haven't seen it in a while, but I actually saw something on social media the team posted. There's 2 people from the team that pretty much took it upon themselves to restore that for me, and I've yet to see it, see the finished product, but I think it's something they've done before, but it's definitely something I plan on keeping and displaying, and hopefully have another one.
All right, we'll come up front here.
Steve Schweitzer with Alaska Press. The current playoff format has been very good to Team Penske. If the rumor mill is to be believed, we may see a different championship format in 2026. Would you be in favor of that? Do you like the current format? Or if it's going to change, what type of particulars would you like to see included in it?
Yeah, I think there's no denying that the current playoff format creates excitement. And I mean, you see what happened at the end of the round in the Roval. At the end of the day, I feel like our on-track product is exciting, and I'm not sure that a points format is going to make or break the fan base as far as do I enjoy racing or not? Like, I feel like we are hyper focusing on something like this, but as far as what's, fair or deserving of a champion or, entertaining, no one's going to agree. And that's kind of where I've come to. And I feel like I've been on both sides of it as a competitor. I'd easily have 2 Xfinity championships if we had just a full season points format. But I also would have never made the championship 4 in my first year of trucks. I probably would have only made the playoffs twice as a Cup Series driver instead of 3 times. So at the end of the day, I respectfully say that I don't care, and I don't think our team necessarily cares, because we just want to go race, and whatever the format is, we would like to excel. That's kind of the basis of it. But I don't really have a strong opinion on what I think would be the best or what makes the most sense. Because I think there are equal pros and cons each way.
All right, Steven, go ahead.
Stephen Toronto, CBS Sports. Austin, the last time we raced on a super speedway, we saw quite a different ending to the race as opposed to the kind of the 2x2 formation that we've had. We had a lot of 3 wide, almost 4 wide racing in the final 2 laps specifically. When you do your prep for this week and when your team does their prep for this week, how much do you view August and Daytona as, okay, this could be maybe we found something with super speedway racing with the next gen car, or how much do you look at it that as, maybe an aberration?
I think Daytona and Talladega continue to get further apart from me as far as how they relate. You could almost argue that the August Daytona race had more similarities to Atlanta than it does to Talladega. So I think I approach all 3 tracks as different racetracks, same package.
And when you mention the characteristics of Daytona, are you talking about how handling kind of factored in there specifically?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Austin.
All right, Dustin.
Dustin Albino, J-Ski. Austin, you mentioned the wingman aspect of everything, and how challenging is it to kind of orchestrate that and set that up so that you guys are working together, given you guys are moving at 200 miles an hour?
You really have to know and understand the person you're trying to help, because you could easily do the opposite of what you're intending to do. And that's why we have all these meetings. Every team and driver is going to have their own team meeting, and then they're going to have an OEM meeting, and you're going to go through all this, and you need your spotter to be on the same page so the information that you're getting is accurate enough to help. So it's definitely an ever-evolving organism. Even as the race changes, from what maybe past events have looked like. You have to continue to evolve, but it's not like I can just go, "Hey Ryan, what do you think about today's race? How's your car driving?" Like I can't ask him anything other than what we talked about beforehand. See, like Joey and Ryan, for example, both race the speedway very differently, and I have to understand what those differences are to best help them, because otherwise, I could be, just doing nothing. While exhausting all this effort, to potentially not make an impact. So, like I said, it's all very situational, but I think that's where your relationships with your teammates and your team is really tested is in the moments. I mean, I think it's like being a backup quarterback. Like the offense isn't built around me in that sense. Like I have to understand, why this is the way it is, and how Joey's going out to race or how Ryan's going out to race, to really understand how I can best impact the team.
All right, Maxwell.
Maxwell Donaldson, Gads and Dimes. Obviously behind you it says this is Talladega. It's sponsored everywhere. What makes this track so special? Not just the racing, but everything else that happens here.
It's massive. I mean, in every sense of the word. I think even it has a cool name. I think that goes a long way. Like, you say Talladega, you instantly think of NASCAR, and you instantly think of a bunch of people having a lot of fun. Like, it's a fun thing to say. It makes you feel happy. I think that goes a long way for the sport, for our race fans, even as drivers talking about it. Camping out in the infield this weekend, just hearing a lot. It is its own thing, but it is also very difficult to describe the scale of the campgrounds, the size of the racetrack, obviously the speed of the cars, the racing, and so on, and the crashes, and the finishes are always pretty exciting. So it offers a lot, and it's kind of just its own special place.
All right, Blake, go ahead.
Blake Smith, WVJS Radio, Owensboro. Austin, Ryan said earlier this week that Talladega in the spring and Talladega in the fall are two completely different races and race different. From your perspective, being the race winner back in the spring, what are the main differences from you between both races?
My car is not yellow this weekend. Past that, I think the drivers really fuel what happens in the race. And by that, I mean, it's the cars and this and that, but like where the drivers' priorities are, I think changes a lot, because at the end of the day, it is a lot of decision making instead of just, there's not another factor like grip or handling that impacts the race. I mean, in a certain extent, yes, but the drivers impact, like if there's enough people, even if the third lane isn't really going to work, if there's enough people that think the third lane's going to work, the third lane will work. Those types of things. Or if there's enough people like, man, I just need points. I can't screw anything up here. If there's enough people that think that, that's all that matters. Or if there's enough people that go, man, there's only 3 races left in the year. I haven't won yet this year. I got to go make something happen. There's a lot of those guys too. So I think the mentality is definitely what drives any differences between the two events, because otherwise weather's pretty similar, the cars, the package, the tires. The only thing that's changed is in between the ears of all the drivers.
Speaking of the mentality, do you keep in your mind out there when you are racing the situations drivers around you are in? This one's in the playoffs, this one's not. Do you keep that in your head as you go throughout the race?
I think it's critical.
Thank you.
All right, Roy, did you have a question earlier?
Actually, it
got asked. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Gwen DeRue with the Birmingham Times. Quick question, actually looking ahead. There are a lot of new drivers. We're still targeting the youth, growing the fan base, creating opportunities to stay abreast with the motorsports industry. What advice would you have for those up-and-coming young ones who are as interested in driving, being a part of the motorsports, as you were when you were starting?
I think it's as simple as working hard. I think the people that you see at a lower level, the grassroots level, that you see working their tails off, those are usually the people that I end up seeing again in life. Whether if it's when I was racing Legends cars or other things, or in other industries, to me that's always the common thread of the people that I see again at a higher level. Those were the people that I remember working the hardest. Hard work's not gonna. I said this in a meet and greet the other day, and it resonated well. If hard work was able to get you everything, the mule would own the farm, right? And it's not going to get you everything, but it's definitely going to keep you around, and it's definitely going to make people notice.
All right, Lee, if I can get a microphone up to Lee.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. You've known Chase Briscoe since he had the opportunity, first got that opportunity with Ford when the three of you, he and Majeski, all three were teammates. How have you seen him evolve over the last year when he finally got an opportunity to be in top-notch equipment at the Cup level?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, I've enjoyed seeing Chase have, even more success this year than he's had in the past. He and I have come up together, become good friends, and, obviously good competition between the two of us for a bunch of years. But so I'm happy to see him do well, but at the same time, he's always been a measuring stick for me, and I feel like we feel the same way about each other from the moment we raced trucks to ARCA to, really anything that we've done together. So, and I feel like I'm a better driver because I've had to compete against a guy like Chase. So I feel excited, but I also feel very motivated when I see him, have the success, especially that he's been having this year. I mean, you look at his stat line for this year alone, but he's got a great shot to be able to go make it in the championship 4. So I think that's exciting. But for me, as a competitor who's not often patient enough for the success that I want, it makes me even more impatient because I feel like I can get there, I can be there. So it's always good to have someone to push you and have a rabbit to chase.
All right, Austin, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck this weekend.